The city of Nova Arctis never slept. Its sky was filled with lights from flying cars, its streets glowing under blue neon signs. But deep below the tall towers, the lower alleys smelled of rust, smoke, and forgotten dreams. It was here that a small figure ran through the rain, barefoot, frightened, and clutching something glowing in her tiny hands. Her name was Lyra, a little alien girl, no older than 8. Her small frame trembled as she hid behind a pile of broken metal. Her breathing came fast, misting in the cold air. In her hands she held a vial of bright blue liquid, glowing faintly through the darkness. It was human-made medicine, rare, expensive, and forbidden for her kind. Behind her, sirens screamed. A metallic voice shouted, "Unauthorized theft detected. Halt immediately!" The echo bounced off the wet walls. Red scanning lights swept the street. Lyra pressed her back against the cold metal wall and whispered to herself, "Please don't find me. Please." Her heart pounded like a drum. The medicine in her hands felt heavy, not because of its weight, but because it meant her mother's life. Just an hour ago, she had sneaked into the human medical depot. The guards had left the door half open during a shift change. She knew it was her only chance. Her mother was dying from Lunara fever, a disease only humans had the cure for. But they never shared it with aliens. So Lyra took it. She didn't think. She just acted out of love and fear. Now the rain soaked her thin clothes. She tried to stay still, but the sound of approaching footsteps made her flinch. A flashlight beam swept the alley, cutting through the shadows. A human officer in gray armor stepped forward. His visor glowed blue as he scanned the area. "Thermal trace detected. Show yourself," he commanded. Lyra held her breath. For a second she thought she could escape, but her foot slipped on the wet floor and the clank echoed like thunder. "Over there," shouted another voice. Lyra bolted from her hiding spot, running as fast as her legs could carry her. The vial of medicine pressed tightly against her chest. The alley seemed endless, twisting and turning. Neon lights reflected in puddles as she dashed through them. The guards activated their hover drones, small machines that flew over her head, scanning the ground. One drone fired a net. It missed her by inches, hitting a trash bin. The impact startled her, but she didn't stop. She could see the end of the alley now, an opening leading into the old district. If she could make it there, she might disappear into the maze of ruins. But then a voice, calm, deep, and human, cut through the chaos. "Stop, don't run!" It was Lieutenant Aaron Cross, the youngest officer in the district patrol. He wasn't like the others. He didn't shout or threaten. His tone carried something else, curiosity and pity. Lyra stopped for just a moment, panting, staring up at the tall human figure in gray armor. Rain ran down his visor as he slowly raised a hand, not holding a weapon but open in peace. "I'm not going to hurt you," Aaron said softly. "Just give me what you took." Lyra's lip trembled. "I can't. I need it," Aaron frowned. "That's not for you." "It's dangerous." Tears filled her large blue eyes. "It's for my mom," she whispered, her voice shaking. "She's dying. I swear I'll never do it again. I did it for her." The words hit him like a punch to the chest. The rain, the noise, the flashing lights all seemed to fade for a moment. In front of him wasn't a thief. It was a scared child trying to save someone she loved. Before Aaron could respond, the other guards arrived. "Lieutenant." "We found the thief," one shouted. "Recover the stolen serum." Aaron turned his head slightly, then looked back at the girl. Lyra's eyes were wide with terror. She stepped backward, clutching the vial tighter. "Please," she begged. "She'll die without it." The lead guard raised his weapon. "Drop it now." Lyra froze, her tiny body shaking. The guard took a step forward. The rain hissed on his armor. Aaron lifted his hand sharply. "Stand down," he barked. The guard hesitated, confused. "Sir, she's a thief. I said stand down," Aaron repeated, his tone hard now. He moved closer to the girl, kneeling so his eyes met hers. "What's your name?" "Lyra," she whispered. "Okay, Lyra," he said gently. "No one's going to hurt you. But I need you to come with me, all right?" She hesitated, eyes darting between him and the others. "Will you take the medicine?" Aaron paused. The rules said yes, but something deep inside him whispered no. He nodded slowly. "We'll make sure your mom gets help." Her small hand relaxed slightly. For the first time, she looked at him not as an enemy, but as hope. The guards lowered their weapons reluctantly. Aaron stood, putting a protective hand on her shoulder as they walked toward the patrol vehicle. The rain softened into a drizzle. The neon lights flickered around them, painting blue and pink reflections on the wet ground. As they passed the alley corner, Lyra looked up at him one last time and said quietly, "You're different." Aaron didn't reply. But inside, he felt the same strange warmth, the feeling that this small act would change his life forever. And somewhere deep in his mind, a question formed that he couldn't shake off. What if doing the right thing meant breaking every rule he swore to follow? The prison cell was small, cold, and smelled of metal. A single light flickered above, casting long shadows on the gray walls. Lyra sat in a corner, knees pulled to her chest, her silver blue skin shivering in the chill. The hum of generators echoed somewhere far away. She had not spoken since they brought her here. The glowing vial of medicine was gone, taken from her hands. Her world felt empty now. The image of her mother, weak, coughing, whispering her name, played again and again in her head. Outside the cell, Lieutenant Aaron Cross stood in silence. His helmet hung from one arm, his short dark hair wet from the rain. Through the energy bars, he watched the small alien girl tremble. She looked far too young to be here. The guard beside him scoffed. "Why are you wasting time, sir?" "She's just another street thief. Let her rot until the transfer ship comes." Aaron didn't answer. His eyes stayed fixed on Lyra. "How long until medical division gets the serum back?" he asked. "Already done. It's been logged as recovered." The guard smirked. "Funny, isn't it? That vial's worth more than 100 of her kind." Aaron's jaw tightened. "Enough," he said quietly. When the guard walked away, Aaron stepped closer to the bars. "Lyra," he called softly. The girl didn't look up. "Lyra, listen. No one's going to hurt you here, but I need to understand, how long has your mother been sick?" Her small voice came out weak. 4 moons, Aaron frowned. "And no one helped?" She shook her head. "Humans don't come to our side of the city. The fever started after the last storm. The healer said the cure was human medicine. But no one could buy it, so I tried." Her eyes finally met his. They were big, luminous, and full of tears. "I only wanted her to live." Aaron felt something twist inside him. The image of his own little sister flashed in his mind. She had died years ago, before the war. Same helpless eyes, same trembling voice. He turned away, pressing a hand against the cold wall. "You shouldn't be here," he muttered. That night, long after the shift ended, Aaron returned to the security office. The corridors were silent except for the buzz of monitors. He logged into the archive, searching the medical tag number of the stolen vial. What he found made his chest tighten. The serum wasn't for military use. It was a batch marked emergency relief restricted. It was meant to be sent to alien camps weeks ago, but had been withheld. "Of course," he whispered bitterly. "Politics again." He leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen. A child had risked her life to do what the system refused to do. The next morning, Aaron walked back to her cell. The lights were dim and the air was heavy with silence. Lyra sat in the same corner, awake but pale. When she saw him, her eyes widened. He crouched down and slid a small packet through the food slot. Inside was a slice of bread and a small bottle of water. "You need to eat," he said. She looked suspicious. "Why?" "Because I said so," he replied softly. "And because I don't want you dying before I figure this out." Lyra took the food slowly, her fingers trembling. "Will they hurt my mom?" she asked. Aaron hesitated. "Where is she?" "In the old market district." "Near the tower ruins," she whispered. "She can't walk anymore." Aaron exhaled deeply. He knew what he had to do, but it went against every rule in his book. Helping her would mean treason, losing his rank, maybe even his life. That night, when everyone else was asleep, Aaron unlocked the side gate of the detention wing. The cameras blinked off. He had looped the feed using his security clearance. He opened Lyra's cell quietly. She looked up, terrified. "What are you doing?" "Saving your mother," he said. "Come with me." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "But you're a human?" He smiled faintly. "And you're a person who deserves a chance. That's all that matters." Lyra stood slowly. Her feet were bare and bruised. Aaron offered his jacket, wrapping it around her small shoulders. "Stay close to me. Don't make a sound." They slipped through the dark corridors, avoiding the cameras and drones. Every step echoed like thunder in Aaron's heart. One wrong move and alarms would blare across the compound. Outside, the rain had started again. Neon lights shimmered on the wet ground. They moved through narrow alleys until they reached the back gate. Lyra stopped. "Why are you helping me?" Aaron looked up at the gray sky. "Because when I was a kid, no one helped my sister either. She needed medicine. The system said it wasn't worth the risk." His voice cracked. "I won't let that happen again." Lyra's eyes softened. For the first time she smiled. A small, fragile smile like light in the dark. "Then I trust you," she whispered. Aaron nodded. "Good, because from now on you don't look back." He opened the gate, and the cold wind rushed in. The city stretched before them like a maze of shadows and color. Somewhere beyond those lights lay a dying woman, and perhaps redemption. As they disappeared into the night, the surveillance system flickered for a second. Then it went dark completely. Inside the empty cell, the light kept flickering on and off, like a heartbeat fading away. The night air was thick with fog and danger. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, bouncing off the metal towers of Nova Arctis. Aaron kept his arm wrapped around the little alien girl as they hurried through the maze of back alleys. Every step splashed through puddles, every shadow could hide a watcher. Lyra's small fingers clutched the edge of his jacket. She was barefoot, shivering, but silent. Her wide eyes scanned every corner, alert and afraid. "Stay close," Aaron whispered. His breath came out in clouds of white mist. "If you hear drones, don't look up. Just follow my steps." They passed a flickering hollow poster showing the words, "Citizens report all alien crimes." Lyra glanced at it, then quickly looked away. She didn't understand every human word, but she knew what it meant. People like her were not safe. A mechanical hum rose behind them. Aaron froze, pushing her against a wall. A drone flew past, its red eye glowing as it scanned the street. He held his breath. The whir of its propellers echoed like an angry bee swarm. Lyra looked up at him, whispering softly, "Why are they chasing us?" "Because they think following rules makes them good," he said, voice low. "But sometimes the right thing isn't in the rule book." When the drone drifted away, they started moving again. The fog grew thicker near the industrial district, where pipes hissed and vents spewed steam into the cold air. Aaron knew this area well. He had once patrolled it, chasing smugglers and runaways. Now he was the one running. They reached a metal door covered in graffiti. Aaron tapped the control pad twice. It sparked weakly, then slid open with a hiss. Inside was an old maintenance tunnel, dark, damp, and narrow. "This way," he said, guiding her inside. "It leads to the lower transport lines. Once we cross the grid, the scanners won't trace us." Lyra hesitated before stepping in. "Will they hurt you if they find out?" Aaron gave a small, sad smile. "Probably. But I've been part of worse battles." Inside the tunnel, the sound changed. No rain, no sirens, only the echo of their footsteps and the occasional drip of water. Lyra's glowing eyes lit the darkness slightly, reflecting off the wet walls. "Your eyes," Aaron said quietly. "They glow when it's dark." She looked down, embarrassed. "It scares humans, not me," he said. "They're beautiful, like stars in a place that forgot how to shine." For a brief moment, Lyra smiled, but the peace didn't last long. A metallic thump echoed behind them. Aaron turned sharply, pulling out his pulse pistol. A security drone had found their heat signatures. "Run!" he shouted. Lyra sprinted ahead, her small feet barely touching the ground. The tunnel lit up with flashes of blue as the drone fired shock bolts. Sparks exploded around them. Aaron fired back, hitting the drone's wing, but it kept coming. "Keep going!" he yelled. Lyra stumbled but didn't stop. She saw light ahead, an opening. She ran harder. Behind her, the sound of gunfire mixed with the hiss of steam. Aaron grunted as a bolt grazed his shoulder, burning through his armor. He fired one last shot. The drone sparked violently and crashed into the tunnel wall, breaking apart in flames. He caught up with Lyra at the tunnel exit. The opening led into a deserted subway platform, long forgotten since the war. Dust floated in the air like ghosts. Aaron knelt, catching his breath. Blood trickled down his arm. Lyra rushed to him, worry filling her face. "You're hurt," she cried. "It's nothing," he said, forcing a smile. "I've had worse, just tired." She tore a strip from her sleeve and tied it around the wound, her tiny hand shaking. Aaron watched her work and said softly, "You remind me of someone." "Who?" she asked. "My sister." She used to care for me like that. His eyes grew distant. She died when I was your age. Lyra looked down. I'm sorry. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Don't be. Saving your mother. That's what she would have done too. Suddenly the platform lights flickered on. Loudspeakers crackled. A robotic voice announced, unauthorized movement detected. Lockdown sequence initiated. Aaron cursed under his breath. They found us. He scanned the area quickly and spotted an old transport shuttle on the far end of the track. It was rusted but maybe still functional. Come on, he shouted. They ran along the tracks as alarms blared. Drones dropped from ceiling vents, red eyes glowing like demons. Aaron fired his pistol again, hitting one mid-air. The other swarmed closer. He grabbed Lyra and pushed her into the shuttle, slamming the hatch closed behind them. The control panel was dead, but he started rewiring it. Sparks flying from the broken wires. Hold tight, he said. Outside, drones pounded on the hull. The engines groaned, then roared to life for the first time in years. The shuttle lurched forward, shaking dust from the ceiling. Lyra screamed, clutching his arm. We're flying? Something like that. He shouted, wrestling the controls. The shuttle shot through the underground tunnel, scraping against walls as sparks showered around them. The red light of pursuit drones faded behind. Minutes later, the ship burst out of a sideshaft into the open night sky. The rain hit the windshield, glowing with neon reflections from the city. Lyra gasped at the sight. The whole world of Nova Arctis stretched below like a sea of lights. Aaron looked out too, breathing hard. We made it, for now. He glanced at the girl beside him, mud-streaked, trembling, but smiling faintly through tears. We're going to your mother, right? He asked. She nodded. Yes, she's waiting for me. Aaron turned the shuttle toward the ruined district on the horizon. Then we won't stop until we reach her. Far behind them, the command center blared an alert. Officer Cross. Rogue status confirmed. Capture on sight. But Aaron didn't care anymore. As the shuttle disappeared into the storm clouds, he realized something terrifying and beautiful. He wasn't just saving one child. He was defying an empire built on fear. The old shuttle trembled as it landed in the ruins beyond the city. Its engines hissed, releasing clouds of steam into the cold dawn air. The place looked like another world, silent, broken, forgotten by time. Ruined towers leaned against each other like dying giants. Cracked roads led to empty markets where alien families once lived before the war drove them out. Now only echoes remained. Lyra jumped out first, her feet touching the dirt of home. Her eyes glowed softly in the half-light as she looked around the wrecked neighborhood. This way, she said, her small hand tugging Aaron's arm. Aaron followed, limping slightly from his shoulder wound. The cold air bit through his armor, but he didn't complain. He could see how badly Lyra was shaking, not from fear this time, but hope. They moved through narrow alleys filled with collapsed walls and burned signs. The scent of ash still lingered years after the fires. In one corner, an old alien mural still stood, painted stars and a pair of hands reaching toward a glowing heart. The words beneath were faded but still readable. Even the smallest light can change the dark. Aaron stopped for a moment, staring at it. Your people painted that? Lyra nodded. My mother did. Before she got sick. He looked at her, surprised. Your mother made this? Yes, she said softly. She used to say it helped people remember there was hope. Aaron smiled faintly. Then she sounds like someone worth saving. They finally reached a broken metal door half buried under rubble. Lyra knelt and pushed it open with effort. Inside was a dim room lit by a single flickering lantern. A woman lay on a blanket, her skin pale, her breathing weak and uneven. Her silver blue hair had lost its glow. Mom, Lyra cried, running to her side. She took her mother's cold hand, tears spilling down her cheeks. The woman's eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly with the same color as her daughter's. When she saw Aaron standing behind, she tensed weakly. Human, she whispered. It's okay, Mother, Lyra said quickly. He helped me. He brought the medicine. Aaron knelt beside them, pulling out the vial, the same one Lyra had risked everything to steal. The blue liquid shimmered softly as if alive. Her mother tried to sit up, but the effort made her cough violently. Aaron supported her gently. Easy. You're too weak, he said. She looked at him with suspicion and confusion. Why would a human help us? Aaron hesitated, searching for words. Because no one else would. He injected the serum carefully into her arm. The liquid pulsed through her veins like light flowing through glass. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her breathing steadied. The trembling stopped. A soft blue glow returned to her skin. Lyra gasped, watching in wonder. "It's working!" Her mother's eyes fluttered open fully, brighter now. She looked around, touching her daughter's face with trembling fingers. You saved me." Lyra smiled through her tears. "No, Mom, he saved you." Aaron stood silently, his heart heavy. He had done the right thing, yet it didn't feel like victory. He looked around the ruins, the burned homes, the silent ghosts of the city's forgotten ones. This place told a story the world chose to ignore. "Your people live like this?" he asked quietly. Lyra's mother turned her gaze to him. "We lived in peace once. Then the trade wars began. Humans took our skies, our markets, our medicine. They said we were dangerous, so they left us here to fade away." Aaron clenched his fists. "That's not justice. It's survival," she said simply. "And survival often looks cruel." A sudden beep from Aaron's wrist device cut through the quiet. He froze. It was his comlink, blinking red. A message scrolled across the screen. "Lieutenant Cross, status, fugitive, orders, capture or terminate." He shut it off immediately, but Lyra saw the look on his face. "They're coming, aren't they?" she whispered. He nodded slowly. "Yes, they'll trace the shuttle. We have minutes, maybe less." Lyra's mother struggled to sit up. "Then go. Take her with you. She can't stay here." Aaron shook his head. "I'm not leaving you." "You don't understand," she said, voice trembling. "They'll kill anyone they find here, human or alien. If they see you with us, you'll die too." Aaron's voice hardened. "I made a choice when I opened that cell. I won't undo it now." Outside, the faint hum of approaching engines filled the air. Drones. Lyra's mother reached out, gripping his hand weakly. "Why would you risk your life for strangers?" Aaron looked at her, his face lit by the blue glow of the vial. "Because the rules that say you're my enemy, they're wrong. And if one human doesn't break them, no one ever will." She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly, tears gathering in her eyes. "Then may the stars protect you, soldier." The first beam of light from a drone swept across the ruined street. Aaron stood, drawing his weapon. "Lyra," he said, looking back at the girl, "stay with your mother. No matter what happens, don't move until I say." She nodded, terrified but trusting. As the door burst open with a crash of metal, Aaron stepped into the open. Rain began to fall again, thin and cold. The neon lights from the city far away shimmered on the wet ground like distant stars. He aimed his weapon toward the advancing shadows. Behind him, inside the dim shelter, Lyra's mother whispered a final prayer under her breath. "Let light guide the ones who still remember compassion." And outside, the human soldier who had broken every rule stood alone, facing the very system he once served. The storm had returned. Thunder rolled across the shattered skyline as Aaron stood in the middle of the ruined street, his pulse rifle glowing in his hands. Rain poured down in sheets, washing away the dirt and blood on the cracked pavement. Behind him, inside the old shelter, Lyra clung to her mother, whispering prayers in a language he didn't understand. The night was no longer silent. From beyond the horizon came the sound of engines, sharp, metallic, and hungry. Drones. Dozens of them, their red eyes cut through the mist like tiny flames of judgment. Aaron checked his weapon. One clip left. The energy core blinked weakly. His shoulder ached where the old wound had reopened, but he didn't care. He whispered to himself, "Just buy them time." The first drone appeared through the fog, hovering low, its sensor scanning the ruins. A voice from its speaker barked, "Lieutenant Aaron Cross, you are under arrest for treason. Stand down immediately." Aaron raised his weapon and fired. The plasma bolt hit the drone squarely, shattering it in a burst of light. The explosion echoed down the street. Within seconds, more lights appeared, 10, 20, maybe more, swarming like metal vultures. Lyra screamed from inside the shelter. "Aaron! Stay inside," he shouted back. "Don't come out!" He ducked behind a broken wall as the drones opened fire. Blue bolts tore through the stone, sending sparks and dust flying. Aaron returned fire, hitting 2, but 3 more took their place. He gritted his teeth. The sky glowed red from the rain-soaked flames. Smoke filled the air. His comlink crackled again, a human voice this time, cold and mechanical. "You've gone too far, Lieutenant. Turn yourself in. We'll be merciful." Aaron's reply was calm, steady. "Mercy doesn't belong to machines." He rolled out, shot another drone midair and dove for cover. A blast struck nearby, throwing him to the ground. Pain shot through his side. His weapon skidded across the wet pavement. He crawled toward it, dragging himself through the mud. His vision blurred, but his mind stayed clear. He could still hear Lyra's faint voice calling his name. That voice pulled him back from the edge. When his hand touched the weapon, a shadow moved beside him. Tall, gleaming armor, human. A soldier. Aaron looked up. The soldier's visor reflected lightning. "Don't make this harder, Cross," he said, raising his rifle. "You betrayed your kind for an alien. Was it worth it?" Aaron smiled weakly. "Ask her when she grows up." The soldier hesitated, just long enough. Aaron grabbed the fallen drone beside him and slammed its damaged power cell against the ground. It exploded in a blinding flash. The blast threw both of them backward. Aaron staggered up, bleeding, coughing, but alive. The soldier wasn't. He stumbled back toward the shelter. The drones regrouped above, circling like predators. He knew there were too many now. Inside, Lyra's mother tried to stand, her skin glowing faintly again, the serum's power working through her. "You can't fight them all," she said weakly. Aaron smiled sadly. "I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to make sure you live." She reached out, her glowing fingers trembling. "There's another way." Before he could ask, she stepped outside into the rain. Lyra screamed, "Mom, no!" Her mother turned toward the sky. Her body began to shimmer, bright and radiant. The blue veins beneath her skin pulsed with life, then with light. The drones froze, their sensors flickering. Aaron shielded his eyes as the glow grew stronger. It was like watching a star being born. Energy poured from her body in waves, pure and warm. The drones fired, but their bolts melted in the air before reaching her. One by one, their engines shorted out and crashed to the ground in sparks and smoke. Aaron stared, awestruck. "She controlling the energy." Lyra's mother smiled faintly, tears glowing on her cheeks. "The serum didn't just heal me. It awakened what was left of our kind." Her voice trembled as she looked at him. "Take her. When this ends, she'll need you more than I will." "No!" Lyra cried, running to her side. "Don't go." The woman touched her daughter's face. "Remember what I told you. Even the smallest light can change the dark." And then the light around her burst outward, engulfing the entire street. The drones fell from the sky like broken stars. The rain turned into mist. The fire died. For one long, blinding second, everything was silent. When the light faded, Aaron was on his knees. The ruins were still. The air smelled of ozone and rain. In front of him, where the woman had stood, there was only a faint shimmer, like starlight floating in the wind. Lyra knelt beside him, sobbing quietly. "She's gone." Aaron placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was soft but steady. "No, she's not. She's free now." He looked up at the broken sky where dawn began to break through the clouds. The light touched the edges of the ruins, painting them gold. For the first time in years, the city didn't look like a cage. It looked like a chance. Aaron stood slowly, lifting Lyra in his arms. She buried her face in his chest, still crying. "We have to move," he said quietly. "They'll send more." She nodded weakly, whispering, "She saved us." "Yes," Aaron said, glancing at the empty street, "and now it's our turn to save others." As they walked away, the faint glow of her mother's energy followed them, drifting through the air like tiny blue fireflies. And somewhere in the distance, The city of Nova Arctis began to stir, unaware that a single act of love in a forgotten district had just changed everything. The war-torn dawn had barely touched Nova Arctis when the silence broke. A convoy of armored transports rumbled through the streets, engines humming like distant thunder. Inside, one of them sat Lieutenant Aaron Cross, hands chained, face bruised but calm. Across from him sat two officers who once called him comrade. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. The look in their eyes said everything. Traitor. The city looked different now. Through the window, Aaron saw people staring as the convoy passed. Humans in polished suits, aliens in torn clothes, two worlds divided by invisible walls. He thought of Lyra, hidden somewhere beyond those walls, and prayed she was safe. The transport stopped before the Central Justice Hall, a massive tower of glass and steel. Its mirrored surface reflected the rising sun like a blade. Inside, everything was cold, too bright, too clean. The tribunal chamber looked more like a stage than a court. 3 judges sat above, their robes lined with silver. A crowd filled the balconies, military officers, reporters, and citizens eager to see the man who broke the rules. When they brought Aaron forward, the lights dimmed. Lieutenant Aaron Cross, the lead judge began, voice echoing through the hall. You stand accused of treason, aiding non-humans, and theft of restricted medical property. Do you understand the charges? I do, Aaron said quietly. And how do you plead? He hesitated only a moment. Guilty of compassion, he said. A murmur ran through the crowd. Cameras flashed. One of the judges frowned. This is no place for clever words, Lieutenant. Aaron looked up, meeting their eyes. I didn't destroy cities. I didn't kill civilians. I saved a child's life. If that's treason, then maybe the laws are wrong. Gasps. Whispers. The lead prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman with medals on her chest, stood. The court does not debate morality, only order. You disobeyed command, released a prisoner, and interfered with classified technology. Aaron replied, calm but firm. I interfered with cruelty. The judge's hammer struck the table once. Silence in the chamber. Outside the tall glass walls, lightning flashed in the distance and storm clouds returning again. Inside the storm was words. The prosecutor continued, voice like steel. This man risked human security for an alien. Do you realize what happens if others follow his example? Chaos, rebellion. The system survives only because we obey it. Aaron stood straighter. And what survives when obedience replaces conscience? That question hung heavy in the air. For a moment, even the judge didn't speak. Then the side doors opened with a hiss. A small figure entered, barefoot, wearing a torn cloak. Her silver eyes glowed faintly under the bright lights. The entire room went silent. Who allowed her in here? The prosecutor snapped. I did, said a soft voice near the door. An old officer, gray-haired, stepped forward. The child asked for a hearing. The law says anyone may testify in defense of the accused. The crowd shifted, whispering. Aaron's heart nearly stopped. Lyra, he whispered. She walked forward slowly, clutching something close to her chest, a small, empty vial. The same one that once held her mother's cure. The guards hesitated, unsure what to do. The lead judge nodded reluctantly. Let her speak. Lyra stood in the center of the room, tiny against the vast chamber. Her voice trembled, but her words were clear. He saved my mother. The judge leaned forward. Child, do you know what this trial means? Yes, Lyra said. You call him a traitor. But if he didn't help us, my mother would be dead. He gave her hope. He gave me hope. Her small hands shook as she lifted the vial. Humans made this medicine. But they kept it from us. He didn't steal it for himself. He gave it back to the people who needed it. The crowd grew restless. Some frowned. Others looked uncertain. The prosecutor tried to cut in. Child, this court... Lyra interrupted, louder now. You talk about rules, but rules didn't hold my mother when she was dying. Rules didn't stop the sickness. A human did. Her voice broke. If this is what humans call wrong, then maybe I don't understand what right means anymore. Aaron closed his eyes. Every word felt like a blade and a balm at once. Silence followed. Even the judges looked shaken. The lead one rubbed his forehead, whispering something to his peers. Finally, he spoke. Lieutenant Cross, your actions cannot be ignored, but neither can the courage of this child. He looked at Lyra, his voice softening. You may step down. Lyra nodded and turned toward Aaron. Their eyes met, hers filled with tears, his with quiet pride. When she reached him, she whispered, She's gone. But she's watching. He nodded gently. I know, the judge cleared his throat. The tribunal will deliberate. Minutes felt like hours. The crowd whispered theories. The storm outside raged louder as if the city itself was listening. Finally, the hammer struck again. Lieutenant Cross, the judge said, you are hereby stripped of rank and exiled from the Human Federation. However, your life is spared. This court recognizes that mercy, too, can serve justice. Aaron bowed his head. Thank you. Lyra ran forward, hugging him tightly as guards moved in. Where will you go? She whispered. He smiled faintly. Somewhere they still need saving. She pressed the empty vial into his hand. Then take this, so you don't forget us. He closed his fingers around it, feeling its faint warmth. I couldn't, even if I tried. As they led him away, lightning flashed through the glass walls, lighting up the entire hall. The storm outside roared, but inside something had shifted, an invisible line between two worlds beginning to fade. For the first time in years, people whispered, not about war, but about compassion. The morning sun rose slowly over the shattered skyline of Nova Arctis. Golden light spilled over the ruins, chasing away the cold mist that had haunted the city for years. The war banners were gone now. The air still smelled faintly of smoke and iron, but something had changed. It felt softer, almost alive again. Far beyond the city walls, among the green hills that once belonged to alien farmers, a small camp had been built. Makeshift houses, half metal and half wood, stood beneath the open sky. Humans and aliens worked side by side, awkwardly, carefully, but together. At the edge of the camp, a man chopped wood with a dull blade. His hair had grown longer, streaked with gray, and the old scar on his shoulder still ached when it rained. But there was peace in his movements. It was Aaron Cross. No longer lieutenant, no longer soldier, no longer exile. Just a man who had found something worth living for. He wiped sweat from his brow and looked toward the rising sun. Each morning, it reminded him of her, the woman who had turned herself into light. Behind him came a small voice. You're up early again. Aaron turned and smiled. Lyra stood at the doorway of a small shelter, wrapped in a faded shawl. She had grown taller in the past year, her eyes brighter, her voice steadier, but she still carried that same spark of innocence. Old habits, Aaron said. The army trains you to wake before dawn. I guess some things don't fade. Lyra walked closer, handing him a small cup of warm tea. The healer said you should rest more, he chuckled. You sound like your mother. Her smile softened. She used to say the same thing. They stood in silence for a while, watching the sunlight touch the hills. A flock of white birds flew overhead, rare creatures returning after years of war. Do you ever think she can see us? Lyra asked quietly. Aaron nodded. Every day, in every sunrise, in every breath you take. She looked down, tracing lines in the dirt with her foot. I still miss her. So do I, he said softly. But she didn't die for nothing. Look around. Beyond the camp, he could see something that would have been unthinkable just a year ago. A human convoy arriving, not with soldiers or weapons, but with food and medicine. Alien children ran to greet them. No one drew guns. No one shouted. They were rebuilding piece by piece. She changed the world, Lyra said, her voice full of quiet pride. Aaron nodded. And you helped her do it? Lyra's expression brightened. They asked me to speak at the Unity Hall tomorrow. They want to hear what happened that night and what you did. Aaron shook his head. No, Lyra, what we did. Remember that. She smiled and handed him something small. A crystal pendant glowing faintly blue. I found this where she disappeared, she said. It still shines. He took it gently, holding it up to the light. The glow danced across his face. It's her energy, he whispered. Still here. Lyra's eyes glistened. She promised light would guide us. Aaron looked toward the horizon where the first rays of full daylight cut through the clouds. And it did. A quiet breeze passed through the camp, carrying laughter from the children nearby. For once, it sounded like life, not survival. Suddenly, a messenger approached, taking a young alien boy out of breath. "Aaron," he called. "They want you in the council tent." The humans from the city brought a message. Aaron exchanged a look with Lyra, half wary, half curious. "Stay here," he said gently. "I'll be back soon." Inside the council tent, an officer in clean Federation armor stood waiting, unarmed, respectful. He saluted slightly. "Cross," he said. The tribunal sent word. "Your exile is lifted. They want you to return." Aaron raised an eyebrow. "Return to what? The same system that created this mess?" The officer hesitated. "They've changed. People talk now about peace, about what you did. About her. They call it the Nova Accord. They want you to help rebuild." Aaron's gaze drifted to the entrance of the tent where Lyra waited in the sunlight. He thought for a long moment, then shook his head. "I already am rebuilding," he said. "Here." The officer nodded slowly. "Then at least accept this." He handed Aaron a small metal emblem, his old badge, cleaned and repaired. Aaron looked at it, silent for a moment. Then he smiled faintly and placed it beside the glowing pendant on the table. "Tell them," he said quietly, "that the uniform doesn't make a man human. His heart does." The officer bowed and left. Aaron stepped outside again, breathing in the crisp morning air. Lyra ran up to him, curious. "What did they say?" He ruffled her hair gently. "They offered me my old life back." "And?" he smiled. "I told them I already have one." They walked together toward the edge of the field. The sun rose higher, bathing the land in gold. In the distance, the city shimmered, no longer cold steel and neon, but something softer, hopeful. As they stood there, Aaron reached into his pocket and pulled out the small empty vial, the one Lyra had given him at the trial. He held it up beside the pendant. Both glowed faintly in the morning light. "She started this," he said. "Now it's up to us to finish it." Lyra nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Together, the camera of the mind pulls back. The camp below, the city ahead, the horizon endless. The wind carries the faint sound of laughter and birdsong, and in the sky above, for just a moment, a streak of blue light glides across the clouds, as if someone among the stars was still watching, smiling.